The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
That cute little monkey that's tied to the chair that son of a bitch kills, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yeah, so this week we're also joined by two very special guests. So about a month ago, we did a guest spot over on the Last Book on the Shelf podcast where we talked about the novel Frankenstein. And at that time, the guys were like, are there any movies that maybe really follow the book closely? And we're doing one this week, so we thought we would welcome them on this week.
Guys, introduce yourselves.
I'm Hayden Orr.
And I'm John Howle.
We also have thank you. We also have a third host. Normally, if anybody is listening, that is a constant listener over at Last Book on the Shelf. But TJ is under the weather this week, so he's sitting this one out. We got him a plane ticket to Ingolstadt. There's a doctor up there that we've heard has really got some electrifying treatments.
Somebody will really put him back together, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we're happy to have two-thirds of the guys on at least.
Yeah.
All right, so this week we're talking about Terror of Frankenstein, which, like we said, is one of the more faithful adaptations of the novel. Especially, it's kind of surprising. It's a really short one. We've done a couple other sort of faithful ones that are like long mini-series, or the Kenneth Branagh one that I think is like 2 hours ish. But yeah, this one is a rare one that starts out with like us being in the Arctic. Like it's we don't see that often in Frankenstein movies.
Right. We get a solid good 2 minutes of credits before we do see the the who we'll find out is Frankenstein. But basically shambling through the tundra. Yeah,
he's all like frostbitten and everything, and then he sees like a ship up ahead, and goes to the ship. He's all excited, and then he just kind of like falls unconscious right as he gets to the boat. And like he's not on a dog sled or anything. We don't get any of that. But yeah, he gets carried aboard by the crewman and sits down with. Or the captain kind of like sits down with him, gives him like a drink and everything, and asks what happened. And he's like, "Where's your crew? Like you're searching for the North Pole too, right?" And Frankenstein's like, "No, no, I'm chasing something totally different."
Yeah.
Then we kind of get this other conversation that we see a lot, where like the captain is really dedicated to this North Pole thing, and Frankenstein's like, "Let me tell you my story, and maybe you will second guess your whole obsession with this hunt."
Right. Don't we also get the, this is kind of backwards in that we actually don't see the monster on the dog sled until after Frankenstein's already made his appearance. And if I remember correctly, in the book, you see the dog sled first, and then Frankenstein comes up behind it in his own dog sled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like the next day he like shows up to the ship or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which the book makes more sense because, Victor is chasing the creature, but here I think it's just like they're just kind of looking for each other out in the, in the wastelands. And so, yeah, then the captain says something like, I saw a guy out on a dog sled. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, but that was clearly just a trick of the light, because how could a giant be riding at a dog sled, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And instantly Frankenstein's like, "Wait, what? Tell me more about this. What's going on? That's not an illusion. I need all the details right away." Mm-hmm. But so he's like, "All right, let me tell you my story and explain to you what you saw, and then we'll go from there." So then we get our flashback to Geneva and young Victor, and in this case we just have Victor's the same dude, the same actor. They don't have like a young Victor actor.
Right. There's shaved, slightly unshaved just unkempt, and then just full wilderness Raggedy Man Victor.
Yeah, which is interesting because like later on, I mean, when he's going through school, like that's like a passage of like 2 years, isn't it? I think is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he just looks exactly the same, like no change in appearance whatsoever. Right. It's as if 2 years passed in 5 minutes. Whoever would have
right.
Right.
But this intro, basically, as Victor starts telling his story, we're introduced to. I thought this was just like a very artistic, washed out, like white room scenario where Elizabeth is walking in. No, it's actually snow. Mm-hmm. So I should. That's my bad. But I was like, oh, they're being artistic. Bull. I'm the fool.
Yeah. So she's like outside of his window calling to him, and she wants him to go on a walk. And, he's kind of resistant. He's like, I got work to do. And she's like, yeah, but, it's pretty out. You should go. And, it's the same thing that we have seen before where, like, he's kind of, like, mostly dedicated to his studies, but, like, she's sort of the one thing that can kind of break him out of that. So he agrees, and they, like, go on a walk. On his way out, he talks to his dad. He talks to William. They're playing chess.
Dad is the only actor at this time who's even trying a German accent.
Yeah.
Everyone else is clearly British, but Dad's like, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I know the kid that was playing William was just like, oh, father.
Right.
Yeah. Oh. Like all these movies, like they're always like, we're in Ingolstadt, we're in Bavaria, or like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but could you try? Because it sounds like we're in England. It sounds like we're in London right now.
Mm-hmm. Which always gets confusing because then they go to London later.
Yeah,
right.
Later. This foreign country.
Yeah.
We clearly didn't just go down the street and record. That's preposterous.
Right.
Yeah, but so out on the walk, Victor finds like this like fossilized, I don't know, some kind of
trilobite.
Yeah. And Elizabeth's very curious about it, and he says something like maybe it never actually died, maybe it just changed form. So already getting like a sense of like that's what Victor's interested in, is like the way that life transitions into death and possibly back the other direction as well. And Elizabeth wants to keep the fossil as like a memory, and so he lets her have it, but she kind of gets they kiss, and she's like, why can't you study close to home? Like, why do you have to go so far away, like leaving me behind? And he's like, I have to, like, the teachers that I need are there. Like, I can't learn what I need to learn here. And she's kind of, she's not very happy about that. Like, she's not really understanding, which, like, considering everything, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But he's like, I promise, I'm going to work really hard. I'll get home in a couple of years. We'll be able to marry. She's just kind of like, okay, fine. Like, let's go home. There's a storm coming. It's late.
Right, but he doesn't mind storms. He feels pretty comfortable out in there. Yeah. And that actually scares Elizabeth just a little bit.
Yeah, so we're getting that lightning kind of stuff going on, and it seems like they usually kind of, Victor's never afraid of storms, and they usually try to like make a character afraid of storms because it kind of like adds tension. We had Polidori in the True Story of Frankenstein that was
really afraid of storms.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he has his reasons, especially there at the end.
True.
Yeah, Elizabeth fares a little better as far as that goes, but
right.
But yeah, so they head home. And then we end up meeting Henry, who kind of like talks to Victor about Elizabeth and is like, you need to like straighten out, like you're leaving her, like what's the deal? Victor's like, well, she's got to understand, I've got these studies. And he's like, no, you're not going to convince any woman that like your studies are more important than her love.
Right, but also not to backpedal real quick. So when Henry comes in, he just came in from climbing some hill or mountain or something. And Victor mentions that, that's dangerous climbing alone. By the way, do you guys see those four shadows?
Yeah, they just like...
Right? Yeah, it's pretty heavy-handed.
Right?
Like, especially if you're looking at this and comparing it to the book and you're like, wait, Henry's never been like a mountain climber in any version of this I've ever seen. Why is he a mountain climber in this? I wonder if that's going to come up again later.
Yeah. But then we get the thing where this Victor, he's not just an alchemist. He's straight into the black magic.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, all the darkness.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Like, I think Henry even says, he's like, this isn't even alchemy. This is sorcery. And I mean, they do like that weird little like Ouija board spirit summoning experiment.
And he joins him. He's just like,
yeah,
intriguing. It's like, that's Henry.
It's a Friday night. What do you got to do?
I mean, yeah.
Summon the dead.
I got to get into my boy's interest a little bit.
Yeah, Victor like reads him like a recipe to make a homunculus, which is like
I don't trust that recipe.
No. That actually, like, I'll go on like Wikipedia or like just internet like rabbit holes with stuff like this. Yeah. That is like a legitimate homunculus recipe. There's also I think ones where you would use manure and human blood and semen. Just it like the recipes for homunculus were just like they're like, take the nastiest stuff you can get and throw it in a jar and keep it warm for like a month and see what happens.
Yeah, you gotta incubate that.
Yeah, it's just like what?
It seems like if it was that easy to do, there would just be like
right. There would be like millions of homunculus just running around everywhere.
Listen, do you know how many homunculi would exist in a teenage boy's room on average?
Be an infestation.
Right, infestation
of
homunculi
or little socks on their head.
Oh god!
Have you guys seen the movie Gate?
Like, yes, the Gate. Yes, those little goblin things.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I imagine it's a lot like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so he reads that. They end up they go to a churchyard to dig up mandrake roots, which is also like a big sorcery thing. And then like you said, they're doing this like candlelit ritual thing, and Elizabeth comes strolling in and is like pissed by this, and she's like, "You all are children." Like, and I think especially because he's like talking about how important his schooling is, and he needs to go away to learn, and she's like, "This is the shit you're doing. Like, this is your important learning." Mm-hmm. From there, it like pretty much cuts to Victor leaving for school. He like thanks his dad and kind of says bye to the family and heads out. And Elizabeth just kind of like doesn't even say goodbye. She just kind of like watches him from a distance. It's kind of like a little sad, a little angry. And then we just get to the school, and here Victor just has like one professor who's kind of like an amalgam of the two professors from the book. Instead of Waldman, it's Waldheim. Mm-hmm. He's kind of like, Victor, I think your study kind of lacks direction. You're kind of spending too much time with these old alchemists. And, he kind of like gives him some reading lists of some other things. Victor's like, but I want to study life. And he's like, then be a doctor, study medicine. Right.
Yeah.
And he's like,
well, I don't want to study
kind of
that. Yeah. No. I just want something simple and easy, like the origins of life and how to create new life,
Yeah. From the ground up.
Yeah, exactly. The basics.
Yeah.
And then there's like some thunder off in the distance, and Waldheim's like, if I were superstitious, I would say that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
But I'm a scientist,
buddy,
so
you don't know how right you are.
That's right.
Then, like, to just really kind of hammer home, like, all of the themes of this, he's like, hey, have I shown you this print I have of the Prometheus myth?
Prometheus?
Oh, yeah.
This is a more modern rendition.
Yeah. So he, like, goes through and they, like, spell out the whole myth, go through all of that, like, the, seal in the fire and the getting the liver eaten every day and all that, like, the whole thing. So then we cut away, and it's, like, Victor at his new room, and he's like kind of starting to set up his lab. He's getting all his gear out and everything. Then we just get like a montage of Victor doing like his science stuff. So he's like experimenting and dissecting.
A lot of dissections.
Yeah.
And I think you see like the professor with him some, but sometimes he's by himself. And then like we later see him visit a slaughterhouse. So like, we're getting
Dude, I got real nervous real quick when they like that guy wound up for the whack on the cow's head. I was like, oh no, we're gonna see an actual cow die.
Yeah, I was
like,
right.
And honestly, it doesn't look like he pulls back before they cut. So I mean,
I'm just hoping he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Didn't see that disclaimer for the no animals harmed in
Yeah.
this movie. It was like,
Yeah, we probably need to throw something up at the beginning of this episode, by the way.
right. Yeah, I mean, and it was a little more common back then that they would just like straight up put actual animal violence in movies. I think like Cannibal Holocaust is like the big example,
God.
but like even like what are the Friday the 13th? They kill a real snake.
Yeah, they chop it up.
And there's I think there's a movie that's just called Slaughterhouse that has like a bunch of pigs that are actually slaughtered. It's just like they just filmed in a real slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
So
who's enjoying that?
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, there's people out there.
There's some people out
Obviously,
there,
they're.
yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
they're selling it, so
yeah.
somebody's buying.
And I guess if you
buying.
start with that, it makes the movie seem scarier. And it's, if you can go to a real slaughterhouse and just film them, it's free production value. But
True.
Right.
yeah, it's not for me.
Nope.
And yeah, it's possible that
just
that's
hearing-
what's going on here.
Like in Texas Chainsaw, just hearing the hitchhiker talk about killing
like the process,
like killing the cattle in the
Right.
beginning. Even just hearing that is just like, oh, so like just
Yeah.
to see it is like even, I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, we see the slaughterhouse thing, and then we've got like Victor back at home, and he's like looking at anatomical diagrams, and he has a little monkey strapped to a little chair,
Bro,
and this part is also pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean
that monkey does not want to be there.
No, they don't show it, but the monkey's screams of terror that are quickly cut off.
fill in the blanks.
Oh
Yep.
God.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like you see the monkey from the front, like it looks like a little tiny electric chair, like he's like strapped down by the
Right,
wrists and
he had it
everything.
specially built for this.
With like zip ties.
It's like almost cute in a way for like a split second, and then you realize what's going on, and you're like, "Oh no!"
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Yeah. It makes it worse that the monkey's struggling against the bonds, like
Yeah.
actually, and it's like the trainer didn't do a good job on this.
but then like you said, we don't actually see anything. Like then it kind of cuts to like behind the chair, so you just see like the back of this chair and Victor like cutting its
Pulls out
skull
knife.
open. And yeah, like you said, it's like it's screaming in pain, and then it's not screaming in pain in a way that is pretty clear what's just happened.
Hey, but good news. Victor just graduated in 2 years.
Yeah.
He immediately cut to him and Waldheim. It's like, hey, congratulations. You got your degree. Good job.
Yeah, he says it took
For-
Victor 2 years what would have taken a regular student 10.
Exactly.
Which is insane. I don't know if that's like an over exaggeration
least.
or if Victor really is just that smart. Which I mean, I guess he is because he creates a man. So
Yeah, true. Only person to do that. So I guess he's at the top of the IQ pile, I guess. But yeah, and so then Waldheim's like, well, you've done all this hard work. Maybe you should give up on your small time experiments and try something a little larger.
Yeah, like scaling up a little bit, right?
right.
Yeah, and Victor's like, interesting. I like where your head is. And then we just cut to him like talking to a guy, and he's like, so I know I just ordered this ice box, but I want it like way bigger than I previously mentioned. Like, I want a
want an
huge.
8-foot
Twice as big.
You want an 8-foot icebox?
He's like, 8 foot. I'll need more wood. Yes,
Yes,
you
you
will.
will.
And then he slams the door. It's just like there's some unexpectedly funny moments in this movie too that I just kind of caught me off. They're not even really that funny, but I guess just because they caught me off guard, I laughed more than I probably should have.
Yeah, it's really dry, but I love it. Yeah.
Right. I did want to add at the beginning, like when Victor's coming off, going on the ship or whatever, and they see Frankenstein off in the distance, the monster, and that guy gets like his head, the sail comes down and whacks him.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, this movie's gonna be good.
Just a little bit of
humor.
slapstick.
Like I'm gonna, this is gonna be fun. So.
And a lot of it comes from like this Victor is less dour than like your Peter Cushing or something. Like he's got a little bit of kind of like impish glee to what he's doing, especially at the beginning. And that's that Leon Vitali is the actor. And he kind of reminds me of the dude who plays Amadeus in that movie. Like he just kind of has that sort of energy a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can definitely see that.
That would be a hell of a movie. This Frankenstein and Amadeus.
Oh my god.
Frankenstein Amadeus.
They just
The ultimate crossover.
Victor and Amadeus in an ego war, and the only reason Victor creates
Oh,
creates a better musician than Amadeus. That's the whole reasoning behind the creation of the creature.
All right, we're gonna have a script writing session here in a bit.
We have come up with way too many good movie ideas in this that we're never ever going to do anything with.
Never. Nope.
Yeah, so once he like slams the door on the carpenter's face, like we just cut to him like he's like down in like catacombs, which we find out is like the city's morgue. I guess it's just because it's like cool down there. They don't have to like have any kind of refrigeration system. You know, he's obviously like negotiating to purchase some bodies, and the guy kind of like shows him a few, and he's like, you know, kind of he's like making his selection and everything. I think the guy tries to charge him more than he's willing to pay, and then but he's finally like they kind of haggle and agree on a price.
Yeah, well, then they just pull out a whole ass guy out of a bloody trough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that is. I guess the water is to like preserve or something. I don't know. It would seem like that would make you decay quicker, but
yeah. I mean, unless it was like ice cold, which I don't know.
True.
I didn't see any ice in there, but who knows? Sanitation standards back then were a lot more lax.
Right. And so yeah, then we're back at Victor's lab, and he is working on like a kite, getting ready to like, you know, deal with the storm or whatever. And then the morgue attendant or whatever shows up with the delivery. You know, it's kind of nice that he can just like DoorDash a corpse.
Right.
Yeah, there's not.
You won't see that on Uber Eats.
No, definitely not. I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of like, as opposed to like most other Frankenstein movies, like not a lot of sneaking around to get like to procure, you know, parts and stuff. There's a little bit of it, but it really doesn't feel like he's too overly concerned with like keeping things
getting caught
covert.
Yeah, I think this was probably more realistic in that it's like, hey, I'm just going to get dead bodies. I'm just popping down to the shop.
Yeah, back then, I mean,
I've got enough money.
Look, I'm a medical student. I have money. Give me a body.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the dude delivers it, like he's just like has it out. It's not like under, you know, blankets on a cart or anything. And then he just like raises it up to the top floor with like a pulley, and it's just like a dead body out in front of his house, like on a rope, and yeah, everyone, you know, could see, but yeah, not trying to be sneaky at all. No. And then like we get Victor has like he's flying the kite, he's practicing, you know, it's not during the storm, he's like outside just kind of flying it.
But man, is he having so much fun?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just the actor or what.
Well, I mean, you know, when you're embarking upon dark endeavors, you got to find time to enjoy yourself.
Have a little fun, right? Yeah. Can't be all serious.
Right.
And then we get like the actual like creature creation stuff, which again, you know, as far as like this following closely to the book, this bit is pretty quick, which kind of feels like it follows the way that things are in the book a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like we just get like one little brief scene of him kind of like cutting into the corpse, kind of like, you know, messing with creating the monster. And then like we've got the storm and Victor rushes out to fly the kite and everything. And yeah, it's like he flies the kite for just a second and then he runs inside and the creature's already awake. Like we're not getting like the big sparks and all the science wheels and all that. There's not really any of that. It's pretty much just kite struck by lightning, goes into the creature, wakes him up. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think they had the budget for the effects for the lightning, I guess.
No
spinning wheel.
No,
sadly.
Yeah.
This creation scene was it was almost it wasn't it didn't quite hit the note for me, but it was almost like creepy, like because it's kind of quiet, like there's no like big music sting or anything going on, and you just see, you know, a solid shot of the creature like slowly sitting up, and then he's going to like, you know, grab the cloth, and then you know, Victor you know, cause he's like beats feet, and you know, he does his classic I'm gonna take a nap and forget about all this.
This is too much. I gotta take a quick sleep.
Yeah.
You know what? I do appreciate that this Victor just takes naps and doesn't pass out at every opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is definitely like, that's, you know, the sort of central thing is Victor, the creature waking up and then Victor regretting his decision. But this,
right away.
This happens, I mean, it's like instant. Like, I think he says, "What have I done?" Like, pretty much right after the creature wakes up. And yeah, like you said, he goes to take a nap, and then the creature, like, just pops his head in the room, like, "Hey, what's up? You just woke me up. Like, what's going on?" And so Victor, like, runs out into the street, in terror.
I wouldn't necessarily call it the street. I would say the yard. And then he just falls asleep on the crate.
Yeah, there's a pretty big fenced-in, like, backyard area for this this whole house that Victor is renting.
Right.
It's kind of a nice place, honestly.
I feel like I would at least open the door and go outside of the fence, though.
Yeah.
If I was that worried about something happening.
Right. But yeah, he just.
I guess they didn't have the funding for that.
No,
we paid for this nice house set. We're gonna get our money's worth.
We're gonna wrinkle out every little bit we can. They also probably didn't want to pay any extras to.
Right.
It doesn't really feel like there's a lot of extras in this movie. Like that I can think of. I don't think there's really any big like crowd shots or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think so. Now that you say that,
no,
it's very, very small. So then, like, we cut to sort of like the next morning, and Victor's just kind of falling asleep outside, and there's Henry, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Good old Henry.
Yeah, and he's like, "I traveled all the way to Ingolstadt just to pick you up and take you back to Geneva so that you would spend some time with your family," which is insane. But like, I mean, I guess if Victor's not answering letters, that's the only way to get his attention.
And of course, that makes Liz very sad because, well, Henry's been building bodies and not writing back to Liz.
Yeah.
So, very sad.
But Henry's like, "You kind of look sick," and Victor's like, No, I'm good. I had a bad dream last night. I went out for a walk and then I got tired and fell asleep outside, but I'm totally okay.
Yeah. Let's get dressed and go get breakfast. Yeah.
Breakfast out somewhere not in my house. I'll just run inside, grab a change of clothes real quick, and then we'll get out of here. But then, he goes inside and is like looking around like, "Oh, where is that thing?" And he doesn't see the creature anywhere. And he's like, "All right, cool. Guess we can just act like that never happened and just move on with our lives. Everything will be fine, I'm sure."
It was just a nightmare, right?
It was all just a dream.
Exactly.
But so then, like, Henry ends up coming inside and is like, "You need to lay down. Like, you're not doing well." So we get a very like abbreviated version of like the long coma thing where it's just like Henry just kind of takes care of him for an afternoon or something, and then like it cuts to like maybe a day or two later they're like packed up and getting ready to head back to Geneva.
Yeah, and it looks like Victor's a lot more sickly than he let on because he's basically fully dressed up, hat, cape, like an old man basically. Despite him being young, and it looks like he's leaning on that cane a little bit more than he probably should be, but I guess creating monsters and being freaked out by them will do that to you.
Yeah. And so then we just get to like they're back at home. Like we don't get any of the travel stuff that know. I mean, like we said, this movie's an hour and a half, so like it follows things pretty closely, but it's got to trim out some fat there here and there to just like really streamline things.
Yeah, it's one of the closest adaptations that's also a speed run.
Oh yeah. They really it clips along at a nice pace. I think kind of to its detriment sometimes. But for the most part, I mean, it's still it really they follow pretty much everything, just like at 2 times speed.
Right.
Yeah, I've heard that some of like the reviews from when this came out said that it was like too dull, which I would say that's not the problem with this. Like I feel like it's moving quick, but like sometimes it doesn't really give the story room to breathe, which is kind of the opposite problem.
Yeah, we'll get into the feelings later on. I definitely have them. But yeah, so we also get Victor's out and like his, it looks like his late 70s / early 80s puffy blanket, watching Liz and William get ready to go play out in the snow.
Yeah, they're going to go on a walk, and like Elizabeth, Victor wants to go, and Elizabeth's like, "You need to stay out of the cold. You're still recovering. Why don't you go inside and warm up, and we'll go on a walk. We'll be back later." So of course, in the woods, Elizabeth and William start playing hide and seek, and we know where this is headed. So yeah, we see the creature kind of like watching from nearby, and then he like approaches William and is like, "Hey," like he's trying to talk to him at first. He thinks that this kid might be his chance at like having a friend.
Right. Well, it's also stranger danger to the max, right? Come with me, little boy. We're going to be best friends.
Yeah.
Nope.
What did he say? It was like, I'm not gonna hurt you, and he just immediately grabbed his arm.
Yeah.
I was like,
Why are you screaming? I'm not hurting you.
And so William obviously is like, he's scared, and he starts saying like, my father will punish you, my father Frankenstein. And he's like, Victor Frankenstein? And he's like, no, my dad the judge Frankenstein, but Victor's my brother and he'll get you too. Like, we're gonna fuck you up.
My dad, my
whole
brother,
family
beat
come
the
out.
shit out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it wasn't until this scene that I realized that Justine is like not in this movie.
No, yeah.
yeah, not part of it.
Like,
No.
I got to this part and I was like, oh, the whole Justine plot is just not, it's just gone. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Well, so is Victor's brother, but I guess he's kind of forgettable.
yeah.
His
Ernest.
older brother.
Yeah,
older
Ernest always gets forgotten about, but
Yeah.
the Justine is definitely like the most sort of like glaring thing missing from this.
Well, that could have extended this out to 2 hours.
Right. But yeah, so of course, once the creature hears that this kid is a Frankenstein, he and that
Ain't long
also,
for this world.
yeah, and like William is yelling too, so it's I think it's a combination where like he wants to just quiet him, but I think he's also full of rage because Frankenstein. So
Yeah, here's the name, and he's
yeah.
just like.
And I gotta say, the way that he grabs William's head, for a second, I was like, oh, he's gonna break his neck. Because
Right?
Oh
he
my
gets him
God.
in that position, but then he just covers his mouth for a few seconds, and William dies like immediately. Like that's just like he just has the worst asthma like ever,
Right.
and just
Well, remember
extremely exacerbated.
Well, this movie's speedrunning, so it has to
True.
speedrun the asphyxiation as well.
right.
Dark
However,
humor. The
for Elizabeth is she's just like running, and he's dead by the time like she approaches, and he's gone. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's not like the whole like the town looking for William or anything again, like to just like streamline things. So yeah, it's like the creature kind of steps around a tree and is hiding, and Elizabeth finds William pretty much right away, and then she runs home without William's body and like gets Victor, and then he goes out and like brings the body back, and it pretty much just cuts right to William's funeral then. And we've got like Victor and Elizabeth, they're talking about the murderer, that he's still on the loose. They're trying to figure out, who would have wanted to do this, but it's definitely
Victor
like
knows.
Victor
Oh, yeah.
definitely knows.
Victor always knows.
No.
Yeah.
And he swears vengeance.
Yeah. So then he pretty much like I think they head home, and then he goes out into the woods and pretty much immediately finds the creature too. Like
Right.
he's not hiding or anything.
Oh yeah.
I really did love this scene too, where he's just like, monster, you monster, and then it just cuts to them around the
It's
campfire
so
eating
good.
food. And
Right.
I laughed really hard. I was just like, oh my god, if nobody knew the context, like this would have been like,
No,
what?
seriously, like if you're listening to this and you haven't seen this movie, like we are not exaggerating. This
No,
movie
yeah.
is a speed run. Like they really are like trying to get everything that they can in there under that hour and 30-minute mark.
Yep.
It felt like one of those, sometimes when they have like movies of like popular books, they just like assume everybody's read the book, so they're just like, we're gonna give you the high points and you'll fill in the blank. It's like the Harry Potter movies. I feel like they're really bad about
Yeah.
Right.
that. And yeah,
Cliff Notes. This is the
this-
Frankenstein Cliff Notes movie.
Yeah.
right. And yeah, I think this moment is the most glaringly obvious one of those, where it's just like, we don't need to have the whole conversation and get them to the ice cave. We're just gonna cut there and you'll figure it out. You'll catch up. And yeah, the creature's like, after you hear my story, maybe you'll understand why I have vowed to destroy you.
Yeah. not maybe you'll understand why I've acted the way I have, or you'll understand my sorrow. Just like, yeah, I've vowed to fuck you up, and this is why.
Right.
This is
But I
why
also
killed
want you
your
to
little
make-
brother.
But I also want you to make me a friend, so I'm just going to add that ask to the
Right,
pile.
right.
Yeah, and so yeah, Victor's like, why did you kill my brother? And and then he kind of goes into it that like, yeah, I thought he might, that a young kid might not instantly be like repulsed by me. I thought it was an opportunity, but then when I found out you were, that he was your brother, that I went into like a blind rage and killed him.
Now, here's something that's interesting. Most of the other monsters, wretches, whatever you want to call them, creatures, they feel like they actually express their remorse. But this one's like, it kind of felt good to kill that kid.
Yeah.
Right? He was just like,
Well, I mean, that is a little similar to the book. You know, the creature does, like, when he's talking about it, he's like, you know, as soon as I killed your little brother, I was like, wow, this, you know, I can do this.
Yeah.
That's like I think that's like the biggest, like maybe you're not such a good person moment in like the story of Frankenstein is like, not only did you kill a small child, but you felt kind of good afterwards. Like that's like I'm still rooting for you, but that's not cool.
Right, you're skirting that line. You're on watch.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like if they express this, it would make more sense why Victor does what he does.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, building him a mate just doesn't sound like a good idea.
Yeah.
Because he enjoys murder.
Yeah, so then we get the flashback to the creature story. We don't really get like how he ends. He's just in the woods, and he's like, "These are
he's
my
wearing
first
clothes."
days.
Yeah,
he is fully clothed.
Yeah.
Really nice clothes.
What? Where did he get them?
He was covered in a sheet, and then boom, right to full outfit. It's like he's got like a 3-piece suit on.
Right.
And we get like sort of a montage of some of the moments that we're used to seeing, where he's like hearing birds sing, and then he finds a campfire and kind of experiences fire for the first time. We get like a really brief scene with him in a village where he like sees a woman and some kids, and then gets chased away from them. And then we get to the cabin in the woods, which is like a huge, like super nice house in this one. Like it's not a tiny little cottage like we're used to seeing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But, of course, he hides in the shed like we're used to seeing, and, is like watching through the little crack in the wall.
Right. But not only that, it's like they show Agatha coming in, and it's like directly inches away from her face. Yeah. Somehow she doesn't see in between the cracks.
Yeah. Like, I know, like, when you're in like your safe space at home, like you're a little less observant to everything around you because you just know where everything is. But like, yeah, if you're like inches away from a crack in the wall and there's just eyeballs on the other side of that, you're gonna see that.
And if like they've lived there for a while, like they would know that there's that crack there. And I'm sure like at least once in a while your vision is gonna like drag. I'd be like, oh yeah, there's that crack. If I saw a pair of yellow, like, monster eyes I'd be out of there immediately.
Yeah.
I'm grabbing a knife and slashing.
Yeah. It's like, just stab, get the hell out, and that's it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That monster is not going to learn any languages from me and my family. And we're just going straight to burning down the shack.
Right. It won't sneak in on your old blind father and...
and
try to befriend him.
Plead for friendship and love.
Right. You know what else that would prevent though? Just swiping at the eyes. Probably the monster from stealing your damn bread.
Oh yeah.
I know, right? He's peeking out at the table there with the window open. He's just like, yeah, I'll get another one. Which he's probably starving at this point, but still, he's just like, I'm gonna help myself here.
Right.
Yeah, and once he steals the food, he like goes back in, into his hiding place and is watching, and then he sees the family sit down to dinner, and he realizes like, oh shit, like they don't have food now. Like this isn't like they had a lot of spare food or anything. Like I think they just feed the blind father, and like Felix and Agatha just are like going without, which I think that happens in the book as well. So again, like they're just like squeezing it all in pretty quick, and then we hear the father plays the violin. Which the creature really enjoys. Then there is like a little short scene that I don't really think follows anything in the book. It's kind of on its own, where like Agatha goes on a walk and the creature sort of follows her and just kind of like watches her from a distance.
And he picks up that, oh, hey, on this really clear and reflective thing is a picture of Agatha. So I kind of wonder what I look like.
Yeah.
And when he walks up on it, obviously he's like, oh, I'm not that good looking.
Yeah, so again, a moment that we pretty much always have to get so that the creature can kind of understand why people don't seem to like him. And then I think we're like back to the house, and you've got Felix reading from the Bible. And in this, like, I mean, again, like, I guess because of the speedrun thing, like, he somehow just, like, listens to Felix reading and then just knows how to read instantly.
Oh, yeah. Those symbols, I can hear them.
Yeah. If only it were that easy.
Yeah, and then I think it's like Felix and Agatha are gone, and the father's alone playing the violin again, so the creature lets himself in and introduces himself as a like lonely traveler who needs to rest. And yeah, again, this scene is like super quick. Like he goes from like, hey, I'm a lonely traveler. I'm looking for some friends. Who are your friends? It's you. You're my friends. Be my friend. Please be my friend.
Please.
Well, he gets rushed a little bit because Agatha and Felix are already coming back.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, I got a limited amount of time I could do this.
Like, fuck, they were gone for literally like 2 minutes, and now they're already back.
We forgot that basket of food. Let's go back to the house.
Yeah, and so of course Agatha and Felix come inside and like
shit goes down.
Yeah, it's the scene we're used to seeing. Like Felix like sort of like attacks the creature, and he
Agatha
like
passes. All right,
immediately.
This Agatha passing out was the best. Like she just drops.
Oh yeah. Just
Did
like
she even make a noise? Was she was just like,
oh.
No, just dead weight immediately. Just
right. Unintentional comedy.
Oh, and I just realized there's no Safi in this either. Like she's
No
just
Safi.
out of the
Yeah,
picture.
no.
She's,
no.
They really were like, I guess they just, which I mean, those aren't in the book. At least those aren't like, you know, I guess extremely necessary to the overall like plot. But I feel like taking Justine and Safi's like subplots out kind of takes away a lot of like, you know, the ideas and the themes of the story overall, and it's kind of disappointing because they're like good subplots. I mean, they're interesting, you know, characters.
Yeah.
Well, hell,
and they have
Safi could have her own movie,
right,
with her subplots.
The Safi and Felix stuff is like a whole like historical, political thriller, like on its own. And then just like they're like, nope, cut it out. Hour and 30, we're clocking it in.
Right.
Yeah, so, you know, of course, the creature gets, you know, once he's, like, kicked out, he goes back to the shed and is, like, you know, watching the family again, which I don't know why they didn't, like, pursue him at all.
Yeah.
But he watches through the wall and sees that they are, like, all leaving. Like, they're done. So he's like, oh, okay, I messed this up. They're gone.
Well, what do you do whenever your friends leave you? Well, it's time to go book burning, I guess. I don't know, because that's what the monster decides to do. There's like a little fire left over. I don't know where it came from, but he's like, you know what? I'm going to throw my books on this because they have caused me nothing but pain. He doesn't say that.
Burning bad.
Yeah. So burning mad that he grabs the flaming brand and just throws it on the roof and catches the house on fire.
Yeah, so yeah, he's, you know, burnt the house down, and then we just cut to Victor's lab, and the creature has, like, somehow gone back to the lab, which is a unique thing for this movie. Like, I don't think the creature's ever, like, gone back to his place of origin before.
Yeah.
Which is especially weird, because, like, when the creature starts telling his story, he's like, my first memories were just, like, being, like, lost in the woods.
Right, not where I live.
Yeah, so but he somehow did figure out how to get back to Victor's lab.
I guess it's because it makes a lot more sense than, hey, I had this journal in my pocket for the last how many ever months, years.
Yeah, because
my dad hates me.
Because he learns French, but the journal is like presumably written in like Swiss or German. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I can kind of get why, but like the timeline of this movie, because from the time that Victor and you know, the creation happens and Victor and Henry meet up that next day, there's only like a few days before they go back to Victor's home.
Yeah.
And then this probably only a few more days from then until William dies. So like this whole, you know, the creature's entire, like, you know, main story takes place over the course of like a week, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, definitely speed. I think in that case, they probably are just like, confusing. People won't notice. They won't pay attention.
Right. We noticed 30, 40 years later, we noticed.
Yeah. But yeah, like you all said, like he goes to the lab, he finds Victor's journal, and you know that's where he like reads through and learns that Victor, you know, was disgusted by him and hates him and everything, and he's like, okay, so that's why I was just abandoned and kind of left. So and then that kind of like gets full circle where he's like, okay, so then that's when I headed to try to find you, and you know the rest.
Yeah, I wanted to make your life a living hell and promise to kill your family one by one.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's like, I need you to make me a deformed woman who can love me.
And Victor's like, hey, only if you promise to go to the jungles of South America and eat berries and nuts. No, he doesn't say that part. He's just like, go to the jungle maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
We won't be around people, we swear.
Right.
Yeah,
be
somewhere
good.
far
We'll be
away.
good.
And yeah, the creature's like, okay, I'll do that if you'll do it. And he's like, well, I haven't actually agreed to make her yet. But then it just cuts to like later, and Victor and Henry are headed to a trip. So that line seemed weird, like that we're gonna imply that he didn't agree, and then we're gonna just speed run to where he has agreed and just not talk about it.
But not even just a trip. It's just like, hey, we're in Scotland now.
Yeah.
This is where I part, Henry. I was like,
Right.
oh, we're cutting out a lot.
Right.
And Henry's just all mad, like, come on, man. I don't know anybody here.
Right.
Nah,
well, you got a couple
I got
friends around here.
Yeah, you'll run into someone.
Right. And yeah, and Henry's like, I'm worried about you though. Like, you're just gonna go out into the middle of nowhere by yourself? And like, that's not safe. And Victor's like, I got to do this. Like, this is the whole reason for this trip. I told you this before we left. You got to let me do this.
And we get a little bit of a quick cut where Henry's apologizing for being so brusque, and he's like, that cliff over there, that's a cliff I want to climb and not fall off of at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we pretty much just cut to Victor is at the secluded little cottage on, the Orkneys. It's just like a remote island. I don't think it's ever identified in this. And he kind of like starts work, and we see like the creature kind of like off in the distance, keeping an eye on Victor. So he's around. And then we kind of like cut to Victor with like a pretty much complete bride. Like he's got it all kind of ready to go. Yeah. And then there's another scene.
Doesn't the monster, before that, like Victor's off walking, and doesn't the monster like kind of come up behind, not necessarily behind him, but he sees this little cottage that Victor walked past, and the lady who is like taking care of her clothes, she sees him and like screams and runs off, and then you just see the monster walking towards the house.
Yeah. Then we see like Victor coming home, like he's been out on a walk, and like his front door is just like knocked down, and so he like goes inside, and like his lab is all like smashed up, and there's just like a dead guy laying in the corner.
Right. I think he's meant to be burned, but he's just like in the fireplace, all rigor mortis and stuff. Rigor mortis, is that an adjective?
Yeah.
It is now.
Yeah, and so like this is another bit that's just like completely unique to this story, which all of those seem so strange considering what they removed.
Yeah, they cut out a bunch of major stuff, and then they were just like, well, let's throw in some weird like small things here and there.
Yeah.
To connect the scenes.
Right.
Sure.
Kind of, right? Yeah. That's what these do, right?
Well, and like the weird thing is because of the way this moves at such a quick pace, like you really do, like you kind of have to fill in a lot of blanks about like what happened in this scene. Like, I guess that this is like a villager went into the house and saw what was going on, and then maybe the creature came in and killed him so that like he wouldn't stop Victor from completing his work. I don't know. It's kind of there's not really a very explicit explanation for what has happened to cause this crime scene.
Yeah, and I feel like if they did actually explain what happened, that would lend credence to, oh no, the monster's just bad. Like making him a mate's not a good idea at all.
Yeah. And then I think it's like Victor sees all of this kind of chaos and everything, and then we just see the creature show up later and is like, why have you not continued with your work? And, Victor's like, because you're incurably evil, and I don't know what this new creation would, I don't know what her morality would be.
Right. Or if she'd even like you.
Yeah. Or you might spawn a whole race of evil monsters who try to destroy all of mankind.
Superhumans.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Yep. So, Victor or the creature's like, you have to finish her. And Victor just like pushes her off the table. Like, no.
No.
Wait, you destroyed her immediately by that single push.
Yeah.
You killed her before she was born.
Right. So, of course, I'll be with you on your wedding night.
Yeah.
There we go.
The classic.
Yep. Never gets old. Unlike the female monster. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sorry, all right, we can cut that. That was a little too mean.
And so then we see like Victor rowing out in a little boat and like dumping the bride corpse overboard.
Right. Hey, but it's a great scene. Henry just running over the rocks.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, his time has come.
Yeah. Yep. So Henry like...
Poor Henry.
And it's so good because he's like climbed up this whole entire mountain and he's like right at the top.
By the way, we talk about how fast this movie goes. This was a slow pace climb.
Yeah.
Like from the very bottom all the way to the top, right? It was just
right. You hear the rocks rattling. It's like, oh, this is very tense. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely setting up the tension of like something bad's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he gets to the very top, and then there's somebody there to give him a hand, to help him get up on top of the mountain.
The hand's a little yellow.
A little bit.
But like the creature, like he like does help him. He gets him up and like he's standing there, he's safe, and then he's just like shoves him off the mountain.
Right. He's like, "You good? You good?" And Henry's like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, bye."
So, like as we've been talking about this whole time, like obviously this whole movie is leading to this moment. We're setting us up that's what's going to happen. So then like Victor ends up rowing to shore around that same time as like the villagers are like dragging Henry's corpse out of the sea.
And it's like, he already knows what's up. He's like, oh, shit.
And we skip all of the stuff about him being like accused of the crime and like all of the jail stuff and everything. Like that's just...
That would take too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ain't nobody got time for that.
And in fact, it's like we see him row up and sees them pulling the body out, and then it just cuts back to Geneva, like immediately. Mm-hmm. And like, Victor's like walking into the door, and there's Elizabeth. She's like trying to comfort him because he's like laying by, or he's in bed, and she's sort of like doing like the nurse thing now and kind of comforting him while he's like having nightmares where I think we get even like some little like flash clips of like the creature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Victor's like, I think we should postpone the wedding, and then it immediately smash cuts to the wedding.
Yeah. Liz was like, nope, you are wrong.
She's like, you don't know what movie you're in, do you?
Right.
Like, there's no postponing anything.
Far too long.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I'll give the movie credit for this as well, that when they're walking down the aisle, Victor and Liz, like, he's literally looking in every nook and cranny for the monster. Mm-hmm. It's like, that all right, I like your paranoia. I see where you're at.
And there's like intense like horror movie music that like we're not getting like the Here Comes the Bride march or anything. Like they're ratcheting up the tension even during the wedding scene.
But of course, because this movie is what it is, the priest opens up the book and we cut.
Oh yeah.
Just cut away.
Yeah. And so we're at their like, honeymoon house or whatever, and like Victor is patrolling, walking around, and
he's got the guns out already.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He like goes to Elizabeth and is like, I gotta leave you for a little while, I'll be back soon, and just like locks her up in the bedroom.
But he doesn't know what movie he's in.
Yeah,
no, he does not.
So yeah, he's walking around the house, and then of course hears Elizabeth scream, and rushes to the room, and obviously she's already there dead on the bed. But he sees the creature kind of like get away out the window. It's not like he wasn't aware of who that was going to be. Like, he doesn't need to see that escape to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, good for him. He doesn't pass out.
Oh yeah, no. No, he goes right to shooting.
Right. And then he calls his dad and the constable together.
Oh yeah.
And right away, he's like, trying to tell them what's going on, and of course everyone's like, yeah, no, that doesn't sound sound accurate to us. No, I don't think you're onto anything here.
Yeah. Clearly, despite everything you're saying, you're out of your head, and that was a criminal, a basic criminal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're a little too stressed out, Victor. You got to calm down. Take some breaths. He's like, no, I made it.
Right.
And then we get like the most like ice cold line from Victor's dad, and he's just like, if I knew what was going to happen to all my children, I just would not have allowed any of you to be born.
Well, ouch. Well, you know what you say to that? You say, Dad, I wish you were dead. And he does.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Yeah, and that, again, it's pretty much like, just cuts to Victor sitting in front of his entire family's grave.
Now, this man is rich. How does he only afford one gravestone?
Yeah.
For everybody.
I was like, okay, come on now. You could spring for a few more headstones in the cemetery, Victor.
Right.
And this is like a scene that I think we've talked about it when we talk about the book, that like no movie covers this scene, and then this movie does, but it just cuts it.
Kind of.
You don't really get the sort of like this scene in the book is so much fun. It's one of like the coolest parts of the book that just nobody knows about unless you've read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it just gets totally like, you know, he's looking at the gravestone. He's just like, I will have my revenge. And then you just hear the creature's voice. And he's like, now that I know you're determined to live, I'm going to the ends of the earth. Catch me if you can.
If you can.
You don't even see the creature. I don't know if they just like had to ADR him in later or what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, in the book, that's, you know, like the creature mocks him and laughs at it. And like, it's just such a great intense moment. And there's like a storm and everything. But we don't get any of that here.
Never. Kills me.
And then we get like the shortest like Victor chasing the creature montage we've ever had. Like it's you know,
really attesting to that speed run, right?
Right, exactly. It just cuts to him like wandering through this almost burnt out house. Then he just picks up a bell and starts ringing it.
Yeah, why? What was that? Like I was confused.
I don't know.
I'm here. Yeah. I'm coming for you.
Right.
And we get like a little scene where like Victor sees the word prepare written on the ground, and I don't know what it's written in, like mud or
blood.
Yeah, it did kind of look like blood, but
that's what I thought. But
but whose blood? Like it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
He like looks off and sees the creature off in the distance laughing, and he rides away on the sled, and then the ice starts breaking. So that kind of like gets us back to the present, and Victor's just like, I'm never going to know peace as long as that creature is out there in the world.
And of course, the creature is out there, at least in the dark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, if the ship gets free, you know, like, this has been scary. Like, the ice has shifted. I thought we were going to, like, go under. But, like, if we're able to get free, you need to go back. And the captain's like, yeah, you know, we're going to turn back. I'm kind of done with this. Like, I don't really care about the pole anymore.
Which is an odd departure, because usually it's like, at this point, Victor has kind of embraced the villain in him, and he's like, no, whatever you do, you don't go back.
Right.
You just promised me we're going to kill this fucker.
Yeah.
Okay? Even if all your men have to die, we're going to get this one monster. And Walton's like, maybe.
We have to go out there. It's mandatory.
Right. Exactly.
Necessary.
Mm-hmm. So then we see that the creature is out on the ice. He sees the boat, and he, like, climbs aboard and kind of, like, scares a few of the crew members and enters Victor's room. And in this version, Victor's still alive at this point. Like,
well, doesn't the shift shifts, and like he smacks his head on the table, right?
Really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was
like literally visible scar.
Yeah.
Or visible cut. Yeah.
Yeah. So he like sees the creature, but he's too weak to do anything. But he does
except reach out like he's going to strangle it.
Yeah, he like reaches out to him and he yells "monster," and then just kind of like dies.
Right. This is the time he pent up all of his passing out for this one moment and expended all of it at once.
So, of course, you know, after him yelling, the captain hears and he enters. The captain's like, you know, he's right, you are a monster. And the creature's like, yeah, but, you know, he created me. But took no responsibility, so, you know, like, if I'm a monster, he made me that, and, you know, now my only consolation is death.
Yeah, I cease to be a monster and a man.
Yeah. Then he starts to, like, head out. He's just gonna, like, you know, go back out on the ice, and the captain's like, hey, stop! And the creature's like, yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah,
not worth my time.
Walton straight up tries. He tries. I'll give him that. He tries.
Yeah.
But the creature tosses him aside like a bag of dirty laundry. He's just like, nah.
Right.
Not even
get out of the way.
Right.
Yeah, and so then the creature just kind of like walks out onto the ice and kind of looks back over his shoulder at the ship and then just keeps going, and that's how it ends.
That's our abrupt ending, as we like to say.
Oh yeah.
So what did you guys think?
I've known about this adaptation before, but I've never watched it until now. And
right.
I mean, it's definitely not the best, but it
right.
does it's weird because it's like sticks really close to the book, but also not at the same time, because it cuts out Safi, it cuts out Justine. It cuts out a lot of like extended periods of time in the book, which I guess is in service to, you know, the speedrun aspect of it. But still, it feels like they cut out a lot of important, you know, subplot stuff. And I don't know. It wasn't bad. I was entertained. I definitely don't think it was dull.
Definitely.
No.
like some reviews, say about it. I like the makeup on the creature. That it was very book accurate, except for the hair color. It
Right.
was whitish instead of black. But I mean, the
Yeah.
skin looked good. The black lips, the black fingernails.
Yeah.
I liked Victor. I liked a lot of the acting. I don't think there was really a bad performance at all.
No.
But overall, it just, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably watch it again later down the road, but I'd rather watch a Hammer or a Universal or actually I'd rather watch the Frankenstein the True Story again. Actually, I really like that adaptation a lot.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, it follows, like, the letter of the book more closely than a lot of other versions, but it, like, misses the spirit somehow.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think that, like, the Frankenstein, the True Story, it gets weird. It has some stuff that's, like, so completely outside of it, but it, like, gets the heart of the story a little better. Like,
I would agree with that.
It has the themes there more, I guess you could say. Like, this feels like it's like a book report or something.
Right.
It's like we're gonna cover all the things that actually happened, but we're not gonna talk about what any of that means.
Right.
Like, in a weird way. All right. So I've mentioned before I have ADHD, and this seems like the way I would tell the Frankenstein story. I would start off rambling, like, for the first 30 minutes. It's a little slow in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Then when action starts actually happening, all right, I'm in, I'm invested. But I'm skipping over a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just do. It's like, all right, slow down, take a breath, think it out.
Yeah, that's accurate.
One other thing that I just thought of, I kind of have an issue with, like, it feels like they're trying to. I mean, it's the story of Frankenstein and the monster. He's bad because it's nurture, not nature. Essentially. But it feels kind of like in this movie that they were like, but the monster is sort of just evil. Like,
right.
It feels
it's a little bit nature,
naturally,
a little bit,
yeah.
Like they were trying to go for, like, there is like an inborn, like, evilness to the creature, but that does. They didn't go far enough with that. Like, you can't, if you're gonna go with that, you really got to go with that. You can't just, like, play with it a little bit and then have the monster.
Yeah, I get what you're
like,
saying.
At the end, like, if I'm a monster, it's because it's his fault. Well, I mean, the way you were acting earlier, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Smiling when you push a guy off a cliff and choke out a little kid, that's not exactly the nicest thing.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's also, like, this could be me reading into it, but the whole black magic angle.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Maybe some of that tainted what this Frankenstein was doing.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that would have been a fun, like, having that sort of black magic thing at the beginning was like, oh, this is something different, and then it doesn't really do anything beyond that.
Yeah.
Like, they could have played with that angle a little more. That could have been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to see an adaptation where they just straight up they get weird with it and just go magic. Like, no science or, like, barely any science and just magic. That would be like, I mean, it'd be something different. And there's a lot of stuff you could do with that if you went that route.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
The tone of this movie too, they could have played it off, and it probably would have worked well too. Because it's so goofy sometimes. It's like, oh yeah, this movie can almost have anything going with it. So
yeah, I agree.
John, is this your favorite Frankenstein adaptation?
Well, I mean, I think Young Frankenstein's still my favorite. Gene Wilder's just
hard to beat.
It's just it's hard to beat that movie. But I gotta say, this definitely will have like a special place in my heart, just because like it is faithful to the book, but at the same time, like at the ending, where he's like monster, but instead in the book it was just like a lot more touching, a lot more humanizing kind of. But the movie is just like just anger towards him still. So it does its own thing. So it's very like interesting, and it had my attention the whole time, because I was worried at the beginning. I was like, man, this this does look kind of old. And I was like, I hope I don't want to look at my phone or anything, but I was glued to the screen. I really did enjoy it. So awesome movie. I'm glad we got to go on to this one.
Yeah. Speaking of that is odd because like looking back at the Hammer movies, they kind of look better than this one. And it's what, 10, 15 years later?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Curse of Frankenstein was like 58, 59.
Yeah, so maybe almost 20 years later.
Yeah. But
this is definitely a lower budget thing.
Oh, yeah. Hammer definitely... the Hammer movies weren't big budget by any means, but they had a little bit more cash to throw around than the people that made this one did, for sure.
Right.
Was this on like a TV show too? Or did this play on like TV? Because with the budget and everything, I'm like, where did this like come out for theaters? Like I was really confused on like maybe some of the background to it.
It definitely does have a TV movie vibe, but I'm not sure if I don't know if it aired in theaters or not.
That's a good question, because it's like straddling the line, like in budget, in production wise, of like between the Dan Curtis and like like a regular low budget theatrical release.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're going to do our research late in the show.
Yeah. None of us have that information readily at hand. So
yeah, we're like,
Yeah, I wouldn't even begin to know where to track that down, like unless it's pretty clearly indicated it's a TV movie or something. Whereas this one, it doesn't seem like it's. But yeah, who knows? All right. Does anybody else have anything else on this?
I know Hayden kind of brought it up before, but what did you guys think of the monster, the creature? Because I wasn't totally into it at the beginning, but as the movie played out, and the actor, he does his role really good. I actually liked it quite a bit. I liked his creature.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the makeup was good. I think, what comic book was that? We talk about it quite a bit, and we've actually spoken with you all about it. He looked a little bit more ghoulish. Who's that artist?
Oh, the Bernie Wrightson.
Bernie Wrightson.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the... In my brain, that is kind of how the creature should look, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that this is, in my opinion, it's pretty close. I mean, not obviously you don't have the sunken in cheeks or the missing nose, but or the black hair like we mentioned earlier. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good makeup job.
Yeah, it felt like they did a lot with a little. Like there's not a lot going on there,
right?
But it is. You know what? I'll say like it some of the Hammer Frankenstein, like some of the Hammer creatures don't look so great, and this actually
that's true.
Looks better than quite a few of those actually.
God, all right, to be fair, Hammer did just do a guy who screwed up his face and like hunched up a little bit. So.
I mean, but even when they were going full monsters, sometimes I mean that Kiwi Kingston from Evil of Frankenstein, it's literally just paper mache.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so at least they did spend the budget there, and especially considering that, like, because this follows the book so closely, we don't really get a lot with the creature. He's used pretty sparingly, so to actually to take the trouble to like make him look pretty good is a nice touch.
You know, I think what you said a minute ago actually suits this movie perfectly. It feels like they did a lot with like a very little at their disposal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Do we got anything else to say on this?
No, I think that's it for me.
Mm-hmm. So we actually, so next week we're gonna kind of talk about this movie again in a way. So this is something that I've been like excited about. Like I've had this has been on our list, and I've only pushed it back this far into the show's run just because I was like, this is so weird that I want to like let people get used to what we're doing before we do this episode. So there's this movie that came out maybe 10 years ago. It's called Director's Commentary, Terror of Frankenstein. It's by Tim Kirk and Rodney Ash, who are the guys that did like Room 237 and The Nightmare. They like usually do like documentary kind of stuff. But they took this movie and they recorded a commentary track over it that is a work of fiction. They got Leon Vitali, the guy who plays Victor in this, to be himself, and then they got I think it's Clu Gulager to be the director, and it's just them having a conversation over the movie, and it tells this whole. It's like a completely made up story about things that were happening behind the scenes during the making of this movie. It's so
it's a sequel,
bizarre.
but it's not.
That sounds interesting. Wow, I didn't even know that.
So strange.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. It's really cool. And the bad thing is, like, they put it out, or like they, it was a Kickstarter thing, and it's like pretty difficult to find now. I actually found the director on Twitter and reached out to him, and he was like, I have copies of it on DVD if anybody wants to buy it directly from me. So if anybody is curious and wants to check this out, of course, we'll talk about this more during the episode. I think we'll cover it pretty well because it's just a commentary track. I think we can, handle most of what goes on in it if you, don't want to buy this or whatever. But if you're curious, it's Tim Kirk. So his email address is Tim, then the number 2, Kirk, Kirk, at yahoo.com. You can just email him. I don't know how much he's selling them for, but he'll, I guess, arrange that with you. But I have my copy from back in the Kickstarter days, so I'm excited to dig it out again. But yeah, I think it'll be fun because I would be surprised if many people have seen this. Like, I feel like, just the Kickstarter backers, and that's probably it.
Yeah, I literally never even heard of that. That is so... that's so weird, but also so, like, cool. That's exactly, like, if I had known about that, I probably would have contributed to the Kickstarter at the time. But this is the first time hearing of it.
Yeah, I don't remember how it got on my radar, but I was just like, oh yeah, I'm definitely in for this. And that was how I found out about this movie, like Terror of Frankenstein existing. I had never seen the actual movie until I found out about this other project, so kind of worked backwards a little bit for me. But yeah, so we will be talking about that next week. I think that should be a kind of a strange, interesting episode.
No doubt.
Yeah.
A commentary on top of a commentary, right?
Exactly. Double commentary.
All right, well, do you guys want to let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, let's have a plug.
We, like Anthony and Eric said at the beginning, our podcast is called Last Book on the Shelf. We drop a book episode every month where we cover, any genre book. We mostly end up doing horror, though, because that's mostly what we read. But
we like the darkness.
Yeah. But we also drop an extra episode at the beginning of each month that's over a movie, usually, but sometimes we'll do a TV show, or we've even talked about maybe doing video games, just any kind of other media. Our next episode will be over Prey, which, if you don't know, is the newest Predator movie that they dropped on Hulu, which is extremely good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We already tried to record once, and we had some technical difficulties.
Twice.
Twice. Technically, yeah. But that first recording was like 45 minutes of gold, and then the technical difficulties happened, and
it made me cry almost. That was
But that we will have that episode out soon, and then our next book episode is
The Black Farm.
The Black Farm, yes. That's TJ's pick.
And it's by it's Elias Withrow. I'm so bad with last names.
Yeah, that last it's Withrow. I don't know how to pronounce it, but The Black Farm.
And and it's got an interesting backstory with like the Reddit community and creepypasta, which I'll share. Don't want to take up too much time, but it's a very interesting book. So
but if you're interested in that, you can follow us on Twitter at Last Book on the Shelf, and then also we have Facebook. We don't have an Instagram yet. We will eventually at some point, maybe. Who knows? And then we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. We're on all the podcasting sites. So.
Yeah, definitely make sure to give those guys a listen because they're a blast. I love them.
Oh, thank you.
I actually was catching up on back episodes and listened to the last episode I hadn't just today, so I am fully caught up on you guys.
Good,
nice.
I'm a little behind, but that's just me in general.
Yeah, I know how.
I'm still catching up on this one too. So
fair enough. But Anthony, where can they find us as well?
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram. At the Frankencast. We're also on YouTube. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. And most importantly, we're on Patreon at patreon.com/thefrankencast. And we should say, John, thank you, welcome. He's our most recent Patreon backer. We appreciate that.
I did. I was like, I saw the spinning science wheel. I was like, gotta have it. Got it at the premium service.
That's right.
I'm about to delve into it now that I'm almost caught up with everything. So,
listen, I don't know if it's going to be great, but it's definitely going to be entertaining.
Oh yeah,
we talk about some wild stuff in there.
Yeah, it's a nice, fun little place for us to divert a little bit from like the format of the standard show. So.
Be a little free flow. There we go.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. But yeah, if you don't have any money, just interacting with us any way possible, it always helps. Even better than money in most cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have any interaction online, the algorithm just treats you like you don't exist.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true.
All right. Well, I guess in that case, to be continued.
I love that part.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.